Hello, everyone. I'm Lucas Machado. I'm the VP of AI and Automation at Revenue Pulse. I've been working with marketing operations for more than 6 years now, with a bunch of different marketing automation platforms, and more recently with Marketing Cloud Next. As you can notice for my accent, I'm definitely not North American. I'm Brazilian, so make an effort to understand me.
Hi everyone, my name is Pooja, and I've been in marketing operations for over 4+ years. And yeah, I've worked with so many different tools, and again, most recently with MCN, where we went through our internal migration. And yeah, so we decided to have this MCN guide, where we would share our experiences and also the learnings, and there will be like an extensive course with multiple videos and guides and all the technical stuff to come. But for today's video, we want to take a step back and discuss the platform like MCN itself at like a higher level and talk about the type of the mindset to adopt going into it if you were to encounter yourself in a position like us. But yeah, with that, let's get started.
Yeah, so as Pooja said, welcome to the MCN Migration Guide. This is episode 1, and we are gonna be mostly chatting through it. So Pooja, my first question is mine to you. How and why Marketing Cloud Next is not like other marketing automation platforms? We went through this, I think, through a lot of discussions that we have through this migration in the last few months. It just feels different, right?
Yeah, it definitely feels different. It also looks super different compared to the other maps. I feel like it's not as intuitive as the other maps are. Like if you are like a system expert in one platform, I think a lot of the time that intuition can carry over to the other platforms. But when it comes to MCN, it's not that intuitive, and it takes quite a while to get used to even just clicking buttons and like knowing where to go and what to look for and things like that. Also, the other thing is that it is deeply like connected to Salesforce, like the Salesforce CRM, and it looks and feels a lot more like that than like a marketing tool. But yeah, like once you get a hang of like the look and feel and like get a bit more comfortable, I think um it it's a bit easier to understand. But it's definitely different. It's so different compared to our current popular maps.
Yeah, I remember it being so different, so connected to CRM that it was even a bit paralyzing in the beginning. Like there was this moment that we had to change our company address because to send emails, you have to add your company address in MCN. Otherwise, it blocks it automatically. It's not like other marketing automation platforms that they trust you that you are adding your company address to the footer. You must do it with a specific field. And we were very afraid that if we change the company address, it will change a lot of things in the CRM. We had to research to be sure that it wouldn't, and was countless days talking to ChatGPT and Claude that, are you sure that if I do this, it won't break anything? Because in the end, it's the same underlying system.
Yeah, absolutely. And there also the other thing is like you don't have like a predefined experiences on internet to go off because it's all also new for a lot of us. So that also makes it a bit more challenging.
Yeah, we didn't have a guide like you guys have, so consider yourselves lucky.
Yeah, yeah. I have another question, Lucas, for you. What do you think was the mindset shift that you consider or like we consider about migrating, and why do you think it's important?
Oh, all right. For me, the biggest mindset shift is having one database that is shared with your CRM and how it is all connected and stitched together. It uses that heavy objects logic that Salesforce already does, but then connected with with Data Cloud, it becomes even more powerful. So you have, for example, your leads and contacts in Salesforce CRM. Going to Marketing Cloud next, you have to transform those to map those via the data cloud to individuals and create some identity rules that will match those to unified individuals, so you're sure that you don't have dupes in your database, which is pretty cool because you can set it up the duplication rules pretty quickly. But at the same time, you have to change to that logic. And there are things that we marketers usually consider parts of the workflows native from the marketing automation platforms that don't really exist the same way in MCN just because of that object's logic. So, for example, consent. We would expect consent to be a field on the contact or lead, or in case of MCN, when I created the unified individual, I was thinking, okay, we have a checkbox here for consent. We don't have a checkbox for consent on the unified individual. We only have another object for consent that we have to populate, and MCN does that connection on the back end. We don't really see it. So when I was trying to create a segment that would show how many leads and contacts we had that were marketable, I struggled a lot because I had to create those connections on the back end. Or even form submission. When you have someone submit a form in your website, you would expect this person to become a lead or a contact or an individual or whatever. You would expect to see that person in your database, right? And
Yep.
that's I think, native in us. We see a form submission. Well, where's my person here? This doesn't.
Where's my lead?
Yeah. just doesn't exist. It creates a form submission object, and you have to translate that form submission object into a lead and a contact, which is challenging in the beginning, but it's like this mindset shift. After you start understanding the underlying logic, it stops being kind of annoying and becomes more like, oh, obviously this would happen. Now I just have to finalize this logic. Okay, create a form submission. Now I have to transform that into a lead or an object, obviously, because this is how it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing to also consider is like, I think it took me some time to stop comparing it to previous maps that I have worked with. And I think that helped like not be so frustrated all the time, because it was like, oh, why, like, this is not here and this is not there. But then when I was like, oh no, this is just how the system is, it's so different. And when I stopped comparing it to the other maps, it also helped understand a lot of the things and put a lot of the things in perspective. So I would say, like, that's the other thing that going into it, I would recommend not think about it like any other traditional map that we have, at least the popular ones. But yeah.
And just be open-minded and try to understand how it works, right?
Yeah.
So going a little more into the migration, Fuja, what tips do you have for people who are starting it and how they can set themselves up to for success without struggling too much with that migration? What should they be thinking about?
Yeah, I think definitely like take your time with documentation. I think that part of the process is really important, and it's really important not to rush it and be like, okay, I'm gonna finish all the documentation of our current map in a week. No, take your time. Take like 4 weeks if you need, if you have like a bigger instance. And yeah, so like a lot of the things that would depend on it. If you have like a bigger instance, a smaller instance, how many assets you have, how many emails you have, how many forms and like landing pages and all that stuff. So it might be a bit different, but I would say again, like, don't be pressurized. Even if you have a like tight deadline to migrate, don't rush through this part of the process, because I find like when you have a detailed documentation of what we want to keep, what we want to let it die, or what we want to change. And for us, it involved a lot of different discussions with our internal marketing team, and talk about like, do we want to keep this page? Why do we need it? And like, I think it's also the place where you can think about how to optimize current processes and like organize, or if there's always like, oh, I'll get back to it at some point, I'll like clean up at some point. I think this would be the time. So yeah, definitely put detailed documentation, like whatever that works for you. If it's an Excel sheet with millions tab talking about every different, aspects of your instance, that's great. But if it's like, oh, just like a Google Doc with like some bullet points, and if that works, that's great too. But yeah, definitely um spend a lot of time with documentation, talking to different teams. And I always want to double check when they're like they're like, oh yeah, we can let this die. I'm like, are you sure we want to let this die? Just taking, like, confirming one more time before we let it die. So I think that also helps, because sometimes you start with a thing in the beginning, and then you come back to it like after 2 weeks, and you can be like, oh, actually you wanted to keep that because it was a great, white paper, it was like a great guide or whatever. So I think it's always better to double check and take your time here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We laughed a lot because we did a huge spreadsheet with a lot of tabs, much more than I would want to do initially. And
Yeah.
I cannot stress that deep enough. I'm, as a person, am a bit disorganized, and whenever doing a project, like, not whenever doing a project, but never doing a migration, or especially learning a new platform and new tool, I'm more like learn as you go. I like to test and break things, and I think this is kind of my learning style. I would highly recommend that you do not do that with MCN, uh, because it
Good.
led me through some dark holes that I'll be sharing across this video guides and this migration guide. But because things are not all working the same way as you would expect, as different marketing automation platforms would. So I was like, okay, this is going to be easy. One day I can figure it out and do it. But some things actually are not done the same way you would do in a traditional marketing automation platform. So it will take you longer just to learn and to understand the best route to go in this new platform. So if you can, watch the most of this guide before you start migrating, or look for more online resources. And to be more fair to myself, there weren't a lot of online resources when they started this for me to learn. So you, as I said, again, you guys are lucky. But to be honest, also, I wouldn't read too much before starting. So don't take this as your flaw too, as it was mine. So, Pooja, another question on migration. What would the timeline for a migration look like to you?
Yeah, so I think it differs from like company to company and like project to like, whatever you have in your instances and how much you are migrating. But we can all agree that migrations are always messy. There's like not like a nicer way to put it. I feel like it's always messy because there's just like so much going on at the same time, and sometimes it can feel a bit overwhelming. So I would say like and it feels like a bit overwhelming, especially when you're doing something for the first time by yourself without having a lot of resources to rely on. So I was like, let's talk about how many months you have, first of all. And like if you have like a tighter timeline that like, oh, we have to migrate within 2 months, or we had to migrate within 3 months, really think about reallocating resources internally if you have resources that can help you with it. Because it's even if you are like a smaller company, I feel like you need more people to help you out here. Because again, this tool is a bit complicated. It's not like traditional map. You cannot just be like, okay, yeah, we'll get it done in 2 months. You need more people in your team to help you get through it. So yeah, if you are like a single person handling this whole thing, I would recommend see if you can have somebody from your internal team help you out with this migration project. And if you have like a longer timeline, that's amazing, because then you can take your own time preparing documentation without the stress of like, finishing it by a certain deadline. And if you're like a single person, you cannot pull somebody in from your team, and or like you can, but there's not anybody technical enough to help you out. So I guess in that case, you can think about if we can hire like an external help to get us through this, because it is really important to have the right resources and the right support when you're going through this. So that's what the timeline would look like in my opinion. What do you think, Lucas?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think I've never seen a migration that wasn't messy. So be aware of that. If you think it's gonna take 2 months, probably it's gonna take 4, especially because this is something that everyone is getting used to right now. It's not a default marketing automation platform that everyone knows. So it's gonna take a while. You're gonna have a learning curve there. So consider that whenever preparing your timeline. There are obviously some gains with all being to the same Salesforce ecosystem. So I'd say, for example, database migration is quicker than it would be doing from to a full new ecosystem, but
Yeah.
still,
Yeah. Also, I feel like you need to keep in mind that if in case you run into an issue where you would need a support from Salesforce, that could take a week or so. Because like, yeah, like for us, I think we needed some help and it took us some time for them to get back to us. So I think you also have to consider things like that that could come up while migrating. And I feel like it's pretty common, like it happens all the time. But like especially if you're on a tighter deadline, think about that too, that like, oh, you might need to have like a 2 week, 3 week buffer here and there if in case things like this come up, or you have to reach out to Salesforce support and if they take, more than a week to get back to you. And if there's like a public holiday, yeah, you might just hear back from them in 2030 or something. No, just kidding. But yeah.
but yeah, but sometimes you need some help from support and
Yeah.
yeah.
So my next question to you, Lucas, is what do you think hasn't changed
So
with Marketing Cloud Next?
yeah, we talked a lot about how it is different, but there are some things that are very similar to the expected marketing automation platform that you would see. I like to think of any map as database, the people we will talk to, content, the assets that you're going to put those people in contact with, they're going to send to these people, and also the automation, like how you're going to get those people to the right content, the right assets, all of that. So we have database, automation, and content. So if you think about it, MCN still has this three main areas. We have database, that is basically unifying individuals that you get from data cloud. It is bit or a lot more complex than you would usually, but yeah, it's still unified individuals. It's still this object that you know how to work with. We have automation. We have Salesforce flows, and if you worked as a Salesforce admin for a while, you know how those work. And even if you didn't, they are drag and drop. They exist on Salesforce for a long time now, and it is not a very different way to build journey or automations than traditional marketing automation platforms. And as content, we have the content management system from MCN2, where you can build every content that you want. So right now, I will show you a bit how MCN works so you can start seeing it and stop imagining it. So this is Marketing Cloud Next. This is how it looks. And the first thing that you can notice is looks almost the same thing as Salesforce CRM. It is very similar. So you can go here to campaigns, and campaigns is where you do like all of your work. So you can go here for a task campaign, for example. You can start selecting quick start flows, or you can create your new flow, and you can have multiple flows in one campaign. We'll go deeper into this. Just wanted to show how you do automation inside a campaign. Once you select one of this, it will open a new tab for you to configure your flow. You have tabs for contacts, leads, prospects. All your segments live here, so you can have here, for example, some audiences that we can talk to. You can see all your flows on your flow tab. So this is the automations that we were mentioning. This is where you connect your content with your individuals. Your content will live into the content tab, which has the content management system. So you can go here into, for example, our main workspace. You can organize it into folders. You can add a new folder. You can add a new content. If you want to keep things organized, I'd recommend you have a bunch of folders, which I created ours because way more organized than I am. Didn't like this laugh. Um, if you are creating content, so you can create a new brand. So you can send the brand values and styles, content blocks for your emails, mail templates, a bunch of different things here. We'll go a bit deeper into those through the course. You'll have your analytics place where you can do your reportings. And if you're familiar with Salesforce reporting, they are pretty similar. So this is another thing that doesn't change, which is amazing. You can see our marketing calendar, your briefs. Here you can add consent objects. We're going to go deeper into those. Here you can say what I mentioned when I said identity resolutions, and we're going to explain how this works. So we can have unified individuals and unified accounts. You can dedupe them automatically. And if you want to see deeper a person, an individual, you have to go into the Profile Explorer, select your data space, select what you want to look for. For example, unified individual. So it starts to fetch that object. Let's say, let's look for email address. Let's find me inside of this. Right, so here you can see the unified individual that is myself and all my activities and how it is connected with the other Salesforce objects. And the email, the address, all of that. Here it's getting the activity. I don't think I have a lot of activity, to be honest. Sorry for that. But here's where you can find your unified individual and have all your unified data. And we're going to go in the future through Data Cloud and explain how that works, but you can add more fields into this and add more mappings and identity resolution. And you can prioritize, okay, if this person exists as a contact and a lead, which has priority, and for specific fields, you can have a major priority. You can override priorities, which is pretty cool too. This is how Marketing Cloud Next looks. I hope you guys are excited to learn about what is coming next.
Yeah, lots to come. We'll talk about implementation. We'll talk about certain setups with Marketing Cloud, Data Cloud, what does users roles looks like, what are some of the caveats there that you have to look out for. We'll also talk about the channel setup and a lot of other admin stuff that would help you. And we'll also talk about campaign ops because I love campaign ops. So we'll talk about campaigns, of course, emails, landing pages, forms, flow, everything. Yeah.
So hang tight and enjoy this journey with us.
Yep.
See you all in our next video. Have a good one.